What are your thoughts on tradwives? In case you're not familiar with the term, tradwife is short for traditional wife, and usually these are people portrayed as stay-at-home moms. They're cooking home-cooked meals from scratch. Maybe they're a homesteader. And it's become like a really popular trend to be a tradwife, even though, in my opinion, being a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job that is not easy and can be very high stress, but it's being portrayed as something glamorous. I think the feminist movement has done wonderful things, but we also are shooting ourselves in the foot a little bit, because where women were traditionally stay-at-home moms, taking care of the home, once women started to enter the workforce and the whole women's rights movement got behind that and pushed for equal rights, the whole feminist movement is about choice. What's happening now is that a lot of wives and moms no longer have that choice to make, meaning there's a lot of families that can't survive on one income alone, and both parents have to work in order to maintain a certain lifestyle and income. So now what's happening is perhaps there are women that want to be stay-at-home moms but can't because they need a dual salary income household. And so they're being forced to work and forced to go back to work way sooner than they may want to after having children. So I think it's an interesting discussion, and curious to hear your thoughts.
But girl, I've already been picked. A married woman is not a pick-me. And truthfully, I think modern day feminists are the pick-me's, because now they're like, oh my gosh, I could never clean my house. I could never make sourdough. How do you have the time to make sourdough? I'm so busy getting my degree. Y'all are the pick-me's now. We've already been picked, babe.
Okay, girl, let me hold your hand while I say this. Pick me is not defined by wanting to be picked by a man. It's defined when you put other women down and demean other women to get male validation. But getting picked by a man is one of the easiest tasks out there. Like, they are super easy. Hello. And apparently, according to her, modern day feminists who want to get a degree and who don't want to cook 24/7 are pick me. There are still women in today's time who don't get the privilege to work, to study, to have basic rights, but are forced to get married. For example, my childhood best friend was forced to get married after the 10th grade, even though she was a smart ass woman, but she was forced to have kids. By the time I was in the 12th grade, she had a whole ass baby. Got me to realize that there are so many women out there just like her who don't have the privilege to study, to work, and to live independent lives like us. They don't have a choice, they don't have freedom, they don't have options, because their life has already been defined by society at a very young age. Especially for women, education is so vital, because that not only liberates you, allows you freedom, but it also allows you to understand the conditioning of society. Because you're easier to control if you're not educated and you don't have wisdom. The minute you shame other women for their choices and their actions, that already shows you what kind of a pick-me you are. So please.
Yes, I wear makeup pretty much every day around my husband, and here's why. Back when I was single and I would go on dates, I would get all ready, right? I would put on makeup, I would do my hair, I would spray on some perfume. I would want to present my best to the guys I was going on dates with. So I figured that if those guys, those random guys that I wasn't even committed to, that weren't committed to me, that were just taking me on a date, if they got to see the best side of me, the most put together side of me, shouldn't my husband? And obviously that has a lot to do too with my attitude and my personality. You don't go on a date with someone and nag them the whole time. And so I really do try, when he comes home from work and when we're together on the weekends and stuff, I try to be pleasant. And sometimes, you know, that doesn't just come naturally. Sometimes it's something that you need to do very consciously. I like to do my makeup, I like to do my hair, and try and just get into that mode of like, I'm in love with this guy.
I've lived two very distinctively different lives. The first 24 years of my adult life, I was a Mormon trad wife, and then that all came crashing to the ground. And now I am the ex-Mormon, ex-trad wife, feminist that you see in front of you today. My tradwife self was hyper-focused on the man at the center of my life, my eternal companion, my return missionary husband, and he was my primary focus in everything that I did. He was the pin drop final destination of literally my entire life. He was the man of my dreams that I had waited for since I was like in kindergarten and first started to wrap my head around growing up and getting married. Like most tradwives out there, I spent pretty much every bloody minute of my life making his life magical. We lived in beautifully decorated homes that were kept immaculately clean. Our kids were happy and loved and successful with all their baby gap outfits and the latest little hairdos. And my husband came home every day to a stick skinny, freshly made up and perfumed house goddess putting the organic gourmet food on the table right as his truck pulled into the drive. I will never forget one afternoon when we were swimming in our backyard pool with our kids, and I thought that I was being the perfect wife. I was, eye contact and making conversation and totally focused on Jake, making sure that everybody had food and drinks and towels and sunscreen and all this stuff. And Jake turns to me and he says, "Sometimes you give me a yellow lab vibe." I didn't know if that was a positive or a negative. Like, what does that mean? And he says, "I just feel like you're kind of like the yellow lab of people. And I kind of feel like we have like a pet owner pet type of relationship. Like you're always just woof, woof. And if I pat my leg, you come running. And if I throw the ball and tell you to fetch, you do it." It hit me so hard because that truly was our relationship. My whole job was to be like his emotional support companion and to have my glossy coat and act like he was my best friend. But being an emotional support companion is not the same as being a partner. There's been a lot of research into the relationship dynamics when you have a working husband and a stay-at-home mom. And what they found is that the men in the relationships have a hard time relating to and connecting with their female companion. And part of that is because there's a disconnect that happens when one person has a whole life outside of the other person, and they are pursuing their passions and they are working and they are meeting other people and they are maturing and they have this multi-dimensional life experience, while the stay-at-home spouse has a very one-dimensional life experience. Their whole entire world revolves around the home and that other person. And Tradwife Jenny didn't really have anything to ever bring to the table outside of the one-dimensional how I looked, how I smelled, my sweet tone of voice, the food that was on the table, how good the kids looked, and how shiny our travertine floors were. And I often personally felt like I was just a pet. Like Jake would go to work in the morning and I'd kind of watch out the window until he came home at night, which is when my life began again. And what's sad is I didn't realize how shallow our relationship was until it ended. And I found myself in the life that I'm living now. Now, I have this huge, big life full of passion and purpose and accomplishments. And I bring so much to my relationship with my partner. And my partner now is not the pin drop. He's not my final destination. He is my partner on my life path. We're getting there together. And my looks have become very meaningless, very irrelevant. When we sit down at the end of the day, my partner values the things that I've accomplished, whether with him or separately. He values the money that I bring to the table. He values my opinions. As equal co-parents to a huge family of kids and one grandbaby, he values my partnership in raising and supporting those children. And I don't know if Kevin will watch this video or not, but I intentionally have days now that I don't do my hair, that I don't do my makeup, that I wear like the scrappiest clothes that I can possibly dig out of the back of the closet, so that on those days that I might put on high heels and a dress and actually try, he's like, wow. I think it's really sad that women have to put on these masks, that we think that we have to live this filtered life for our husbands, when the reality is that true intimacy and connectivity comes from vulnerability and authenticity.
The only people in trad relationships who are genuinely living soft lives are the men who are married to the women, because all they have to do is work and then they can come home, fridge is fully stocked, dinner's cooked, kids are taken care of, all they had to do was conceive them. Like, they just don't have to do anything. How incredible it would be to be a man married to a trad woman so that you can live that soft life, but you're not a man. So if you want to live that soft life, I suggest that you find a source of income where you, yes, work, and then you provide that life for yourself, because honestly, if you live in that trad lifestyle, it's just going to cause you stress. Anytime I see a trad wife on this app, their life looks anything but soft, and then people turn around and they're like, oh my gosh, trad wives are living that soft feminine life where they turn their brains off and they'll let their man do everything for them. Yeah, their lives look anything but soft. They're taking care of the kids full on, they're cooking all of the meals, they're doing all of the household labor, they're doing all of the chores. Does that look soft to you? I genuinely feel like the softest way to live your life would just be to live your life singly, and then also prioritize your friendships and prioritize your career and stuff like that, so that you can provide for yourself and buy everything that you want. That would be the soft life that you guys are dreaming about.
Every time you watch Tradwife content, you are training your subconscious to think that it's normal to give up your bodily autonomy just to say that you are married or in unionship with a man. And there's a little secret that these content creators that make this content are never going to tell you when it comes to becoming a tradwife. The secret is that when you decide to give up your bodily autonomy as a woman, there are no takebacks. There are no takebacks. Listen to me very closely. There are no takebacks. The second you decide that you are going to trade in your bodily autonomy, your mind autonomy, your financial autonomy, mental, emotional, all of the above, any form of autonomy, you do not get to wake up one day and say, I don't like this anymore, and then still keep your husband, and then still keep your life and your reputation and life as you currently see it. There is no such thing. This is the reason why you don't see older women making tradwife content, because if they were a tradwife when they were younger, they realized and learned the hard way, I don't get to wake up one day and decide that I don't want to do this anymore and then still maintain the life that I've had. Because at the end of the day, that is what you're trading in. You're trading in your autonomy. That is what being a tradwife is. Tradwife and lack of autonomy are the same fucking thing. Okay? It's just packaged in a pretty bow under the word tradwife. When in reality, when you open up the box, you take off the wrapping paper and you dig in between all of the, extra stuff that's in there, it's you giving up your autonomy as a woman. As you get older, you're going to realize every time you go to an event, and let's just say you are with a very successful man, but he won't let you be successful, you're going to get tired of going to events and having to hear someone refer to you as such and such his wife. Like, they won't even know your fucking name because you're only an extension of your husband, right? People are going to look at you and they are not going to have any type of capability that they even see that you have, because they only see you as an extension of someone else, because that's what you signed up for when you decided to be a tradwife. You decided to get rid of your whole fully autonomy. That's why we literally have a woman on this platform talking about how she gets princess treatment by going out with her husband, and she's not allowed to look at the wait staff, and she's not allowed to place her own order, because that's what that is. That means losing your bodily autonomy and the own right to think for yourself in order to stay partnered up with somebody. And you're never going to live out your whole life and actually be okay with that. At some point, you're going to realize that you don't have an identity of your own, because you've essentially become the man that you wanted to have give you princess treatment just for you to stay partnered and married. I can't speak for everyone, but no man will ever be rich enough, handsome enough, good in bed enough, emotionally intelligent enough for me to ever give up my autonomy just to say that I'm with him.